Chairperson Phil Goldstein.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Marty Jost.
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Bard.
Here.
Commissioner Tom Wood.
Here.
Alternate Wendy Newland.
Here.
And alternate Jeremy Holt.
Here.
All right. Commissioners, any amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Determination of alternate voting. It's been determined by a very scientific system that Jeremy will vote this evening. Having one absence here among the regular planning commissioners. Public comment. Anybody signed up for general public comment? This is an opportunity to speak on anything that is not specifically on the agenda.
Jim, was your comment just a general comment or was it on item 6A? Oh, okay.
You'll state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Jim Gross and my address is 6746 Stone Point Drive here in Timnath, over in Timnath Ranch is where it is. First of all, we've been here probably just about a year. Love Timnath. It's a great place. What I am concerned about is the tract of land behind us, which is, I think, according to y'all's proposal 10, in that tract. And I've been following, because obviously it's in my backyard there, that what's been going on. We've been waiting for the proposal to come to the planning committee so we could join. We went to the public comment, was a little discouraged at the public comment based on how comments were taken at that point. And what my concern is I haven't seen that the prospect has been approved by the planning committee or the council. And there's been considerable work being done on that tract of land over the last month. It's not just in the little drainage area, it's now starting to progress north into the land there. And I'm not privy to why or what's going on, but I do know that the process hasn't been approved to my knowledge. And that to me puts a little bit of a black eye on the process, because if people can move without the process being approved, if that is the case, then I don't think that looks favorable upon us and the citizens of Timnath. So thank you. I appreciate you listening to my concern. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, so the process, Jim, is that's your opportunity for public comment. We normally don't necessarily debate or something, but this seems like something I would hope that staff, if they know where you're talking about, and so they may want to ask you further questions, but if you could,
Would you like me to-
explain why this, yeah,
Would you like to respond?
yes,
Okay.
please.
Thank you. So that's actually work that's being completed. And if you're subscribed to the Timnath e-blast, e-newsletter, we explained what was going on there. And it's all related to completing some third filing work that needed to be done to turn over the middle of the park area that's north of Bethke. There's drainage that needs to go through all the way over to the T-Rock. And so they're completing that work. There may be some stockpiling of dirt that you're seeing that they're moving around because of those pipes, but it's all work related to that inside what we call the peanut, inside Schoolhouse Drive. So there's no work actually being done related to the project to the north of where you're at.
Is this, excuse me, is it, Jim, is this where you, that's not where you, is this where you live? Is that the work? Because I was curious about that too. Is this where you live, and is the work that you're talking about one and the same?
Well, the track or the water runoff, I guess, I don't know what you would call it.
The drainage,
The
yeah.
drainage
Yep.
through there does run in my backyard. I mean, so I face south, but my backyard is north, right on that. And it doesn't border the peanut
Right.
area.
Yep, so there's a pipe being put in across schoolhouse that's a storm pipe that will drain all the peanut, go into those two ponds that are gonna be there. Well, that are there, and then that drains out into the T-Rock, which is the drainage, the ditch that's along the,
So those might
west
be
side.
settling ponds there?
those are detention ponds. Yeah,
Okay, and they'll stay that way?
yep, exactly.
Okay.
They're permanently gonna be there. Yep. And they're part of that work because it all is dependent upon those ponds as being part of that drainage system. So there'll be that open space, there'll be open space
So
throughout.
that would be sitting water in there at
There's, I
times?
think it's retention and then there's detention on top of it. So there are wet ponds with detention on top. So
What is detention on top?
there's wet ponds, basically they hold water
Okay.
and then the detention, that's the drainage portion will sit on top of that and then go out, be released. So
Okay.
they're constantly wet. They'll have water in them.
Okay,
I think that
Alright.
makes sense, but if that isn't satisfactory, we can put you in touch
We can talk. we
after
can
the
talk
meeting
further.
or speak afterwards, and they can explain it further, but that sounds like a logical explanation.
Yep. We can talk to you afterwards. If you like to stick around, we can talk to you about it.
okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. I
problem.
appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Nobody else signed up for the general public comment. Okay. Item number 5, the consent agenda consists only of the approval of the November 15th, 2022 meeting minutes. Commissioners, any additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion on item number 5, the consent agenda? We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes on a 5-0 vote. Business items, we have 2 presumably interrelated items, 6A and 6B. This is going to be you, Kevin, I see. Could you, because it's been a while, too, could you, in the course, you'll probably do this anyway, a course of going over these, kind of refresh the commissioner's memory, because we've got a couple commissioners that weren't here, I don't think, when the Willis Farm proposals got started.
Sure. Thank you, Chairperson. So I will present both together because they do go hand in hand. So this is for the annexation of the Willis Farm property. This actually started about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, with an initial application for a comprehensive plan amendment for the property known as Willis Farm to what our comp plan designation was, employment / regional commercial for the purposes of setting up for the industrial zoning district. So that went through the process and was approved through you at Planning Commission and Town Council about 2 years ago. The annexation of this property has then sat until recently, which is why we're bringing it back forward now. So nothing has occurred between that time period. We're just now at a time period to bring forward the annexation for your consideration and then council's in January. So to the applications at hand, this is an annexation that consists of 2 parcels totaling roughly 79 acres. Currently within unincorporated Larimer County. The property as shown here is located just west of Main Street, north of County Road 42E, and then also subsequently north of the Fisher Farm subdivision, just south of, and then also just south of Prospect Road. The proposal is also for, the other action is for the initial zoning of the property, which would be to industrial, which complies with that comp plan designation of employment / regional commercial that I had mentioned that was approved roughly 2 years ago. The annexation of the property was submitted by Willis Estates LLC, represented tonight by John Turner, and the applicant tonight is TV Group. Staff has reviewed this annexation against all town code and Colorado revised statutes and find that it meets all code and statute criteria. The zoning for the property also meets criteria, complying with the comp plan designation of that employment regional commercial for zoning of I-1 industrial. With that, I will turn it over to Kristen for her brief presentation.
Are we good on sound? All
I
right,
think so,
perfect.
Kristen.
Thank you.
Good.
My name is Kristen Turner. I'm with TV Group 444 Mountain Avenue in Berthoud, Colorado. And our presentation will be very short, but I will be happy to answer any questions that might come up. So just to give you a quick refresher on where we're located, this property is located to the west of Main Street and just north of Stockbridge Road or County Road 42E. All right, so this is the annexation map. It does not look as exciting as some of the colored plans that we bring forward to you, but it is a technical map, so we are requesting annexation. It's roughly 79 acres and is located within the town's growth management area. Let's move forward to the zoning map. Again, another black and white map, which is not super exciting, but again, this is a technical request. So the zoning that we're requesting for this property is I industrial. There's actually a small part, the existing farm building that is just north of the ditch. Thank you for circling that, Chad. The zoning request for that portion of it is a state residential. So it would be a little bit different north of the ditch, and then everything south of the ditch would be that I industrial zoning. That is consistent with the comp plan, which is currently listed as employment or regional commercial. So that is why those zone designations were requested. And then this one looks a little bit prettier for you. We got a little bit of color. So this is just a concept plan. This is not a sketch plan, which is, typically what we're talking about at this point, but it is a concept to give you an idea of how we envision this property potentially developing. We have worked through street alignments and what would be appropriate with staff. And so you can see we're proposing an extension of Holland Parkway, and that is a road that would come from the south as part of the Fisher Farms residential subdivision. That would extend through the property and then connect over to McLaughlin Road on the west side of the property. And then we do have some internal loops through the site as well. And right now, what we are conceptualizing for the site are, 1 to 2 acre industrial sites. And all of these would come forward again in the future with plats or site plans, depending on, what they were, so that you could see how each one may develop. What we found is that, if this were to be approved tonight and we were to move a plat forward, if we do kind of these 1-ish acre size lots, it's really easy for employment and commercial users to come in and say, okay, a 1 acre plot is perfect, or I need to put 3 together to accommodate our facility. So it really helps to kind of grid it out like this, at least at a conceptual level. So folks can figure out what the actual size is that they would need for their particular business. You can see that we've located detention in the southwest and also the southeast corners of the site, which is where it would naturally be located. In addition, there would be an extension of the Prost Trail that would run along Main Street. We envision this on the south side of the ditch, moving across the property and then connecting to the west side of the property as well. So in the future, this will provide really good connections. We know that the high school is just to the north of this. This will help connect east to west and into the larger overall trail system that the town has planned. And with that, I will leave it and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
And Kevin, anything else you need to add regarding, we've covered both items sufficiently. We have anybody signed up? We do have public comment, right? Anybody signed up, Chad?
Yes, we have Jill Handwork.
Hello, I'm Jill Handwork. I live at 1733 Meadow Air Drive. one of the properties that is directly adjacent on the north to the Willis Farm. And I'll begin just by reminding you all that in 2020, the comprehensive plan designated this area as low density residential. And the Willis group came forward because they didn't want to build houses. There wasn't enough money. The water table was too high, things like that. And so now it's zoned to be industrial, surrounded on three sides by residential properties. And the other existing businesses are small family-owned businesses and a tree farm. So you can understand we're very concerned about what happens there. Most of us have lived in the area for 30 or more years. And yeah, we have a way of life and this could drastically change it. So with that, I've provided a letter to all you. We didn't have time to get this in on the docket. But basically, we would like, as the annexation goes forward, that the petition include some things to make sure that they are guaranteed to happen, like a buffer between the properties and the nuisances, no excessive noise, air pollution, contamination of groundwater, excessive night lighting, so that we can maintain the integrity of our neighborhood, which has been here for so long, and our quality of life. And if you can do that, and it's my understanding that you can add additional conditions to the petition, then I think, you know, the project could go forward, perhaps in a compatible manner. But I will also remind you that even though it's plotted out like this, changing economies can drive development in different ways. And so what they're saying now may not be what happens in 2 years. They'll come back and the economies are not right for that. We want to put something else here. So we just want to lock in some protections and buffers for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Chad, anybody else signed up? Okay. I'm going to bring this up here to the commissioners. Keep in mind, getting this rather late. We're trying to parse the details, certainly Jill and anybody else that's involved in this. I will say, as I recall from 2.5 years ago, we seem to provide as much, and I guess I'm speaking for the three of us that were here at that time. We did our best to provide some assurances that our recommendations to council, and keep in mind, we're a recommending body, and within the bounds of us still being on planning commission at the time that this came forward, and now we're at that next stage, that we would do the best we could to try and speak to as many of these as were feasible. And I remember Mr. Turner agreed at that time, again, within the bounds of the things that could be done. And I'm talking mostly about the buffering and the positioning of certain businesses, as I recall, the less odious things. So given that we just got this letter, I'm gonna, my expert at parsing the details over here, I'm gonna turn over to Marty, our vice chair, who I'm sure gleaned some of this information quickly. Some of this may be within our purview and some of it may not be, but I got a feeling Marty's got some thoughts on all these conditions, and I'll ask him first and then turn it over to the other commissioners. Some of this will be right up your alley, certainly. But Lisa will remember this one. So Marty, why don't you give any thoughts you have on this item?
Yeah. Okay. So taking them in order here, the carriage road, you know, looking at the satellite view, that can't really go through, goes through somebody's property, right? It just, the maps that were up there kind of shows it going, potentially going through. That's not the plan.
So Carriage Road and with the county was actually intended to go south. Right now it is actually as slated for right of way within the county. That was something that we had looked at as staff. If this development were to go to residential, it was going to be staff's recommendation that Carriage Road does connect. But with it going to industrial staff, we feel that the Carriage Road connection isn't necessarily needed for that development.
Okay. Okay. And then when this came up, it was April, right, of 2021. It was what we talked about as far as buffering then was 60 feet.
Yep. So our code criteria, which actually was even just recently updated, it's actually a little bit more enhanced than what it was back at that time. So this would be a buffer 60, which is 60 feet wide and then its parameters within every 100 lineal feet of frontage that has the ability for different type of buffering, but it's at least 60 feet wide. It includes evergreens, deciduous trees. It's a pretty extensive buffering that is required by the code that this development would at least have to meet.
Okay. And then last time too, we spent a lot of time talking about the conditions that we would pass on. Now that we're at this stage, do we have to redo that or?
So the way that the state statutes reads, which is staff's interpretation, is that the conditions are thrown on the findings of fact portion of the hearing, which actually is at council from that standpoint. This is the petition. So there can be, we'd have to talk with our legal counsel a little bit more about conditions specific to land use criteria from that standpoint. Typically conditions that are thrown on an annexation are generally geared towards the existing conditions of the property. That might be out of conformance, that a property can continue on doing a specific thing for a certain amount of time, stuff like that before they have to be in compliance with town criteria. So we'd have to talk with our legal counsel a little bit more about that, but those conditions would be brought forward at council, and that would council would be the ones to impose any conditions that would be applicable.
Yeah, because I mean, conditions is probably at this point the wrong word to use. Is more guidance, right?
Correct.
And with the industrial designation, it's pretty prescriptive. I was going through it yesterday again, and pretty prescriptive on limiting already the kind of businesses that most of them that I read, some of the conditional usage ones we wouldn't want, but the permitted uses meet everything that we talked about before.
Yeah, our industrial, for reference for some of you that might, some of you that have been there for a couple of years, is over there on Goodman Street, over there in Timnath Ranch, where the old town hall, town admin building was. That is the only industrial zone district in town. So that is something that is fairly compatible with surrounding land uses of residential, where it's generally small industrial type uses. There are some offices over there, some things like that. So yeah, Marty, to your point, it's more, our industrial uses are set up to be more like a Goodman Street.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as the guidance goes, do we read that back again to just put that in the record to pass on then?
If you want, as part of the minutes, we can have that in the minutes as, your kind of how we've done in the past of, you would want to pass along, some of your thoughts, in regards to, buffering or some things like that. And then, we'll have to have further conversations with our legal counsel.
Okay.
Excuse me, anybody have any, I'm just kind of head nod with something like this, any objection? And I realize we may have some more details here and some more questions, but at this stage, any questions about what Marty's suggesting as our end result is that we pass along to council again, what we use, what we mentioned as guidance to your expression. back then.
Yeah, I think that the requests that have been made are reasonable, and they're close to what is in the existing industrial guidelines in terms of no excessive noise, no other nuisances, minimizing emissions of any kind. And that's also backed up by the county. The county Air Resources Board is really cracking down on anything like VOCs or any emissions like that. So I think this request
Yeah,
is very
I
reasonable.
hang on a second. All I wanted to know was, I didn't mean to interrupt Marty necessarily. I just wanted to find out if that particular approach was generally straw vote acceptable to everybody. Now go ahead with the rest of, if you have other.
The only other thing would be, a year and a half or so in, any ideas on tenants at all yet, or it's still way up in the air? Nobody's expressed interest. Okay.
We're not marketing, we're not.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Lisa, you were here then. Any questions or comments?
Well, I guess Marty answered or addressed some of the questions that I have, I guess, for comments and kind of on the record. While the carriage road, like you said, is not considered to be extending now because it's going industrial versus whatever. I guess I would like to acknowledge the residents' request that it be formally addressed, that if that does happen, if there is not going to be any residential on that end, then carriage road not even be an option to be considered and to be extended, because I think that I agree with you. I think their requests are very reasonable. So for me, I would like to go on record that I think that's a reasonable request, that carriage road not be extended, and that be as Marty said, we're not here to set conditions, but that would be our guidance. And if it's not the guidance of the entire board, I certainly would be my guidance. And the same with the transitions and the buffering. I don't think it's unreasonable to say, well, 60 feet is what is under code, considering the length of that community or that area of residential and what they're asking for. A guidance of 100 feet is not unrealistic, nor is it asking too much. Even though code says 60 is what is mandated, and you say has all these things. I just think it's important that we listen to the people that are affected by this at the onset, when those decisions can be made and those conditions or those requests can be adequately identified. It sounds like they've given it a lot of thought. I think those considerations should be acknowledged, and that would be my guidance. As for the third one, if that comes down to what conditions have to be addressed by town council, then I think that's the appropriate time to do it. I guess staff, that's what you're saying, is that we really can't do more beyond giving a guidance to say, really be very careful what industrial companies can be established there. Is that correct?
Generally, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, my particular opinion would be to ask town council to be very careful and to be diligent in those companies that are going to come in under that industrial and maintain the fabric of the community, maintain the fabric of Timnath. So I don't really have any questions. I guess those are more my comments. I think when we did this, a couple of years ago, we really tried to listen to everybody in the surrounding area and be open-minded to all things, while also allowing the Willis Farm to be developed in a way that would make sense for people. So, it's just a matter of let's play well together, do it right.
Well said. John, as I recall from 2.5 years ago, and sometimes I can't recall 2.5 weeks ago, but I've always known you, we've always known you to make whatever accommodations reasonably can be made to be compromising. And as I recall from back then, John, Kristen, we heard the residents, they came to council following meeting and were very complimentary about, as Lisa said, playing nice together. So again, we certainly hope that would continue, and knowing your reputation for wanting to make accommodations wherever feasible and within the bounds of what you can do. We trust that would happen again. Tom, any?
Can I ask one last question?
Certainly.
Is it, this is for staff, can we put these conditions or these guidance in the annexation approval? Or is this just comments that we can pass on to town council because then they have to approve things?
It would be off to town council. The town council would be the ones that would have to add the conditions in.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to be very clear how far we can go with
Yep.
this.
And that's what I was saying. We need to talk with our legal counsel a little bit further about those conditions. Typically, they go with like an annexation agreement, or they can go on this, but that's where I was mentioning it's typically with, the existing conditions of a property where conditions are done, not necessarily land use code criteria, type development criteria for that, but that's what we'll have to talk with them a little bit further for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm glad that we're moving forward with this annexation. I think this will be a big addition to the town of Timnath. And I concur with what Marty and Lisa have said in terms of the request. So I think it looks good.
Okay. Wendy, anything? Jeremy?
No, I echo the same guidance wise. Obviously, that neighborhood is one of my favorite neighborhoods to drive through too. So, just making sure the integrity of that neighborhood is respected in the process would be my guidance.
Kristen, anything you want to add, having heard or seen anything else you or John want to add?
Sure. I wanted to say we agree and are looking forward to working with the neighbors on this. Some things that I didn't point out when the concept plan was up on the screen, but I did just want to note now is that, we do show a green buffer all the way around the property. That was feedback that we heard from the neighborhood meeting that we incorporated into the plan. We also heard that they did not want a vehicular connection on Carriage. And so that was something that was considered early on and removed from the plan. And that's what you saw in the concept that we showed earlier. And the last thing that I wanted to point out was that location of the Prost Trail along the south side of the ditch. That was intentionally located there to increase that buffer. Anytime you can provide a trail, you're going to have the width of the trail plus all of the easements that go with it and landscape buffering and all of the plantings as well. And so we felt like it made more sense to locate the trail there rather than, for example, along 42E, a road, so that served as additional buffer. So we also tried to listen during those neighborhood meetings and incorporate the neighbors' concerns into the plan that you are seeing tonight. And we'll continue to work with them should these plans move forward tonight. So thank you.
Good. We appreciate that. I'm sure council will appreciate hearing the same message. Will this go to council at their first January meeting, 10th, which
That'll be first reading. The second reading is on the 24th.
Okay. And you'll have spoken to legal counsel about that and deal appropriately at the council meeting. Okay. Any commissioners, any other questions, comments for staff? Kristen, at this point, buddy? Okay. I think, all right. All right. With that, and with, Jeremy, you're voting, we'll move on to and vote. I need a motion on business item 6A, a resolution for annexation for property known as Willis Farm. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries on a 5-0 vote. Item 6B, zoning map amendment for the annexation of the property known as Willis Farm. Do I have a motion? Have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It carries 5-0 vote. Moving forward. Jill, I would encourage you, obviously, you'll probably come to council, but staff will do, I'm sure, a nice job of communicating this once they clear this with legal counsel. Thank you. Thanks, Kristen. Thank you. Reports. I have some information. We had 3 applications for the vacant alternate planning commissioner position. And I believe at council's January 10th meeting, the recommendation we made to appoint Mike Lewis and to advance Jeremy to a regular commissioner's position, being the senior most alternate, correct, staff? Good. So appreciate everybody's support on this. Michael is a little bit about Mike, whom you'll meet. I've encouraged him to come to the council meeting probably, and then if we meet on the 17th, he would take his seat at that point. Michael is from Bath, England. He's an Englishman, has a certain amount of credibility, I believe, just in his accent. It does. He's an engineer as well, so feel pretty good about this appointment, assuming council feels the same way. Appreciate the staff assisting with this. Commissioners, anything else for the record?
I've got a question, and maybe I noticed south of Three Bell and Summerfield that they're grading and clearing that big property down there, putting utilities on the other side of the river. Is that something you're aware of? Yeah, so the big property south along the canal and the river. There's a new water line coming up along the edge of the river, just on the other side of the canal. And they're clearing and grading, chipping trees. I was a little surprised.
It might be outside of the town's limits, so I'm looking at a map now. If it's down by the river, is it close to the river?
Yeah, the one that we reviewed 2 meetings ago.
Do you think it's within that area?
South of the pool.
I don't think so.
Okay, we went through that re-annexation and zoning approval down there. Anyway, it's something I happen to notice. That's part
We'll
of
take a look at it,
where I
Tom.
walk, but
We'll go down and look at it, see
I was
what's
just
at.
surprised that there was so much going on. And I guess the other side of the canal is outside of Timnath, but there is a new water line, and I believe that's supposed to feed that new development.
Can you get back to Tom? Is that?
Yeah, we can, I mean,
appropriate?
either Don or Corey
Yeah,
can
we'll-
look into it.
We'll take a look at it. If it is, it's a Fort Collins Loveland project.
Yeah, I
That's-
wouldn't be
That's
surprised.
got nothing to do with Timnath at this moment, but it could have something to do with that south area.
Commissioners, anything else? Anything staff?
Nope, just to wish you all Merry Christmas.
Same here. Same here. Don, anything? Nope. Chad? Anybody? Okay. With that, I need a motion to adjourn. I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.